First thing we do when we start using Easel is to establish a login and an account with the company called Inventables, and we're going to type that up in the search bar up here. Until I get to something that says Easel Sign In. Once I find Easel Sign In, I'll pick one of these that gets us to Inventables. Make sure you have inventables.com somewhere in the heading there. And now we're going to log into Easel. And this is your first time in there, you're going to have to create a new account. Just enter your email address, your full name, a password, and fill out the form below and start your free trial. I've already done that, so I'm a returning user, and I can type in my email address here and my password, and I can get right into the Easel. When you do finally get into Easel, you'll get into a screen that looks something like this. Mine has quite a few projects already started. Yours would most likely have maybe one project that the folks at Easel set up for you. But I would recommend we just start by creating a new project. Once you create the new project, you'll come to this screen. This is kind of neat in that the left-hand side is a piece of graph paper, and on the right is a piece of wood. This piece of wood, as you can see, is birch plywood. It is 12 inches wide, 8 inches long, and it's a 1/2 inch thick. In doing our work, we're going to use an 1/8 inch bit, as you can see here. And anything we put in over here as a drawing will be reflected over here as a cutting. So let's sit here. We're just going to create, this particular one has a different number of shapes that you can create. I'm just going to click on square. And you notice a square pops up in the graph paper. And you can manipulate it manually by just pulling on it, such as that. Or you can use it to change the size manually. And we're going to, in our case, going to do it manually. I'm going to put a 6 and a 3 in there. So now we know our box is 6 inches wide and 3 inches high. One other thing that you can see on this screen is something called rotation. You can change the rotation of it just by pulling on this a little bit, or you can type it in. In this case, I'm going to type in 0 to bring it back to where we started. All right. The other thing you can do on this is add radiuses to the corners. So if I want this to look more oval in shape, I can just type in, let's say, a 1. And notice that it changes both X and Y, and it rounds the corners off. If we look over on the right now, all those changes have been reflected over here. But by default, the cut area, as you can see, is called clear out a pocket. In that case, it's going to clear out all the wood within this referenced object here. So you can see that we have that clearing everything out. Now that takes quite a bit of time, especially with an 1/8 inch bit. More normally, you'll have smaller areas that you do pockets, and for larger areas, you're usually cutting on the outside. So I'm going to cut right on the shaped path, and that means I'm going to cut right on this line, this imaginary line around the box. And if I cut on that, you can see it changes on the wood over here to what I asked for here. Now let's look at the depth of cut. This depth of cut came up at 0.2 inches. Yours will probably come up a little different. I've been playing with this a little bit, and it, I changed it in the previous setting, so it held that setting. Anyway, you can use your slider here to cut deeper or shallower. As you cut deeper, notice this color change over here. It gets darker as you cut deeper. That's kind of helpful in that just a quick look, you can see what's going on there. I'm going to set the depth manually here, though. I'm going to say 0.1 inches. All right. So now my cut depth is 0.1 inches. We know our box is 6 inches wide and 3 inches high. So that's pretty neat. Now if I want to center this on the board, simply you have to do is make sure I highlight this box. I go up to Edit and Center the Material. Let me catch that again. I missed it. There we go. All right, center and edit the material. Now it's centered on the board. All right, some of the other objects you can, shapes you can put in here are circles. And circles are, they're a little different in that the size can be changed, the width can be changed while the height is left alone. And when you do that, you end up with an egg-shaped container. If you want to change them both at the same time, and we can do that, let me make them both equal to 1 and make it a circle again. If you type this, click on this link button here, and let's say make a 1/2 inch circle, 0.5, you'll notice both of them change because I've got the link highlighted. Now, rotating this here, a circle is not going to change it much, as you can guess. When I rotate, it looks exactly the same because it's a circle. But we'll put it back to 0. Now going over to the cut area, remember it defaults to clear out a pocket. So rather than clear out a pocket here, I'm going to change this to cut outside the path this time. That means when I'm done, the object in the middle here is a 1/2 inch in diameter. If I were to cut inside the path, you'll notice the object is much smaller. That would be 1/2 inch minus a quarter, twice the 1/8 inch bit that we're using, and that would mean this is actually a 1/4 inch dot there, not a 1/2 inch. So if I cut outside the shape, I get the full width of it. If I cut inside the shape, I have to do some math, but basically it's whatever the dimension is minus twice the bit size. All right, so now we have 2 of them. Now if I want to center this particular one, I could do the same thing. Edit, center the material. Now this circle was within the box. Some of the other shapes that we can play with are a diamond. Diamonds are nice. In this case, I'm going to take the diamond and manually turn it to the right to 90 degrees or 270 degrees, as it says here. Let me change that so it's exactly 270. All right. So now I have an arrow there. I'm going to make it smaller. Now I'm going to bring it over and towards the middle a little bit. I'm going to add some a line to the left side of it. Now I can do that with the line tool. As you can see, if I take the line tool and do that, click escape. Okay, now it has a line there, but as you can see, lines don't have any height. Let me delete that. That didn't come out right. Let me do it again. Take the line. I think I double clicked. Okay, that time I got it. Okay. All right, so now I only have 1 line. Before I had 2 lines. Anyway, we have 1 line, and lines don't have any height. So that poses a problem. If I wanted to move these 2 objects, I can move them and put an arrow, make them in here. So it works fine. The width of this line now, the cut width, is going to be the same as the bit size. We can't change that. As you can see, if we go back and click on just the line, it has no height. So if we cut it, it's going to default to whatever the bit size is. If I change this bit to a 1/16 of an inch, see if we have one of those. Yep, here's one here. And click back here. You'll notice the line is skinnier without changing anything else. The same is true of these lines out here and this line in here. They are skinnier because I changed the size of the bit. So everything is done in relation to the size of the bit. Let me make it back to 1/8 again. All right, and now we're back to where we were. So these are basically the essentials of what you can do with the easel. Let's try a few other things. We haven't done the star yet. put a star down here. Then we can add a star to our collection of objects here. I'm going to make it a little smaller. Now we have I'm not quite sure what this object is, but we have something that has a star, a circle, an arrow, and it has an outline around it. If I want to make this star, as you can see, if I click the cut panel, you can see that it's cleared out as a pocket. So it's scooping out everything within the star. The same is true of the arrow that we made. But let's take a look at the arrow. Something a little different is going to happen here. I'm going to take this, and we're going to look at our cut. Let me get this right here. Oh, let me move this out of the way, it's easier. I'll move this back out of the way here. Alright, so now when I try to change this to cut setting, I'm going to cut it outside the line. Cut outside the path. The arrow, of course, looks bigger, doesn't it? Well, look what happens when I try to do it with the line itself. Hard to grab that. If I say try to cut outside line, you can't do it. In fact, it doesn't even come up. Now, why is that? Because the line really has no width. It really is, it's just a line. Just like a line on paper really doesn't have any established width until you give it width. So what I prefer to do here is to get rid of this one, and I'll hit the delete key and get rid of this particular one. And I'm going to actually put a box here. But it's going to be a very skinny box. So I'm going to bring it this way. But I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to move it up in the middle here. Okay. Now if you see that now we have height in the box. And I can make that height pretty skinny. I can't go less than the bit size, can I? Because the minimum I can set there is about 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to say 0.15. I'll get a little more. So that's the width of our box. Now if I highlight both of these, I can change the cut. I can say cut outside the path, and you can see it cuts outside the path of my box. If I say cut inside the path, it gets a lot smaller. And if I say cut on a pocket, clear out a pocket, you'll see that this arrowhead looks more like a pocket, but this didn't change a lot. And think about what that meant, what that happened there. If I say clear out the inside of this line going up to, excuse me, clear it out, of this going into the arrowhead, the height is, it moved a little bit because I was playing with it, but the height is 0.15 we had left it. At 0.15, if I were to run this bit inside, what I'd end up with is a pocket. Because if I clear 1/8 of an inch off of each edge, there's going to be some overlap in the middle and there's going to be nothing left. So it'll look just like it did when we selected pocket. Doesn't change. All right? But if I say outside the pocket, notice that it changes. I think you can see that there's this is all what you draw over here, and what is represented on the other side is dependent on the size of our bit. Normally, if you had something like this, I think the cleanest look would probably be to highlight both of them and say cut, clear out a pocket. That typically looks best in that particular case. So that's what gets you started on this. Why don't you practice moving this stuff around, create some different figures up here, and just play with it a little bit. And we'll pick this up again with a little more detail in the next session.